Paris, April 25, 1792. An immense crowd, driven by a blend of curiosity and morbid fascination, converges from every corner of the city upon the Place de Grève, where a novel machine for carrying out capital executions is poised for its inaugural use, the guillotine. Nicolas Pelletier, a French bandit condemned to death for theft and murder, will be the initial prisoner to experience it, by directive of the National Legislative Assembly. Amidst the shouts and whistles of the crowd, Pelletier is led to the scaffold by the executioner, Charles-Henri Sanson, the actual executor of over 2,900 decapitations during the years of bloodshed of the French Revolution. A metal blade, suspended and firmly held between two wooden uprights, is then released and allowed to descend in a free fall, swiftly and cleanly severing Pelletier's head with a single decisive stroke. Between amazement and horror, the crowd was left disappointed and unfulfilled, astonished by the sheer speed and cold efficiency of the execution. A method too quick and effective to provide adequate entertainment compared to previous methods of execution, such as hanging. In previous videos, which you can find by clicking above, we saw how lethal injection and the electric chair work. In this video, we'll delve into the detailed workings of the guillotine, exploring its origins and inventor. Crucially, we'll also examine whether it truly is as painless as commonly believed. The guillotine was conceived in 18th century France during the drafting of its new penal code. At the time, there was a search for a swifter and less painful execution method, especially when compared to the traditional tortures, which were often deemed excessively slow and agonizing. Furthermore, the method of execution had to be the same for everyone, regardless of their social standing or the nature of the crime they had committed. The concept of developing a decapitation machine was put forward by the French physician and politician Joseph-Ignace Guillotine, from whom it subsequently received its name. However, the machine's actual design was entrusted to the French surgeon Antoine Louis, while its construction was handed over to Tobias Schmitz, a German harpsichord maker. He created the first prototype of the guillotine for 960 francs. So, the initial experiments were conducted on human cadavers and a few sheep. After some modifications, the guillotine was at last prepared for operation. But what exactly was its structure? Let's examine it in more detail. The guillotine was positioned on an elevated platform, enabling the public in the square to witness the execution and hurl insults at the condemned, thereby transforming the event into a grim and brutal spectacle. The structure consisted of a wooden base to which two sturdy uprights, also made of wood, were fixed in a vertical position. The wooden uprights were approximately 4 meters in length and spaced about 40 centimeters apart. At their apex, they were connected by a transverse beam that securely held a pulley in place. It was a rotating disc to which a rope was attached that allowed him to lift the blade and keep it locked until the moment of execution. The blade was made of steel, trapezoidal in shape and mounted obliquely at an angle of approximately 45 degrees, preferred to the initial straight version, so as to ensure greater cutting effectiveness. On the left upright, however, there was a locking mechanism operated by a lever to allow the blade to be released and fall free under gravity. But how exactly was this done? The condemned, accompanied by the executioner or his assistants, was led to the scaffold located in the town square, surrounded by the jeers and insults of the waiting crowd, all eager to witness the morbid event unfold. At this point, the condemned individual was secured with leather straps to the tilting board, which was essentially a wooden plank positioned at the base of the guillotine. At the bottom, positioned between the two uprights, were two wooden lunettes, a lower one rigidly fixed to the base, and an upper one designed to slide. This setup allowed for the insertion of the condemned's neck, thereby securing and immobilizing them throughout the execution. Once everything was prepared, the executioner activated the release mechanism for the blade, causing it to drop at high speed from a height of approximately 2.25 meters, achieving a velocity of 24 kilometers per hour. The condemned person's head was swiftly severed with a clean cut and would fall into either a zinc bucket or a wicker basket positioned directly beneath the guillotine. Once the show was over, the severed head and what had previously been his body were transported in a cart to the city cemetery and thrown into a mass grave along with others executed in the previous days. In the case of well-known or intensely disliked individuals, their heads could be impaled and put on display for the public in the days that followed the execution. However, a question has always lingered concerning this macabre instrument. Was the execution truly instantaneous and painless, as its creators asserted? Some physicians of the time, such as the German anatomist Samuel Thomas von Sommering, argued that the brain did not shut down instantly upon separation from the body, but rather maintained nervous activity in the severed head for several seconds. According to this legend, which was never scientifically proven, the condemned individual might have felt their head drop into the basket, or even seen the crowd when the executioner displayed it to the public. Some witnesses from that era recounted instances of eyes still moving, lips appearing to speak, and faces flushing even after the decapitation had taken place. Modern scholars, however, tend to view these narratives as mere literary fabrications and journalistic sensationalism. The blade was in fact designed to ensure a clean and rapid cut, instantly severing the spinal cord and therefore causing immediate loss of consciousness. In conclusion, during the years of the French Revolution, the guillotine marked the beginning of a new chapter in the history of justice, becoming a symbol of collective terror. It is estimated that almost 17,000 people were sentenced to capital executions by the guillotine in these years. At the same time, however, the squares were crowded with people who, amidst screams and cries of fear, witnessed the execution of the condemned. A macabre theater where death was both spectacle and warning.